Professor Slingerland, who is an expert in early Chinese thought, and his book that is currently out, Trying Not to Try, having to do with spontaneity. And Professor Slingerland, so what is the power of spontaneity?
Yeah, so in our culture we tend to think that the way we achieve our goals is by striving, right? So we try really hard, and if you don't make it, try harder. And there are some goals for which that's the right approach, but the problem is there are actually a lot of goals in life that can't be attained through direct effort. So things like happiness, charisma, fun, like how you can't force fun. You can't force love. Something like love of learning, if you're trying to get kids to really enjoy learning things, it's not something you can force them to do. So there are a lot of these important goals in life where the only way to attain them is to kind of back off and not pursue them directly. And athletes are aware of this, so we have certain sub-communities like athletes and performers who are very conscious of this. They know that they perform at their best when they're in the zone, or they're relaxed, they're not trying, and they're very worried about this, what happens when you start thinking too much, when you start trying, and then you mess up your performance. So this problem of choking or freezing up on stage. So that's the problem of trying not to try, is that when you're in a situation where you know you need to relax to do well, how do you force yourself to relax? How can you try not to try? How can you make yourself be spontaneous?
Wow, and it's something that happens over time. Can you practice not to practice?
Yeah, there's different strategies. So one of the things I talk about is these early Chinese thinkers who have as their ideal this term, wu wei, effortless action. Spontaneity. You can translate it as spontaneity. It's the state they want you to be in. They think if you can get into the state, you'll be successful in the world. You'll move through the world effectively. You'll be effective in social situations. But they have this problem of how do you get people to be. You can't try to be wu wei. There is a real paradox involved, and I talk a little bit about why, from a cognitive scientific perspective, it's a paradox. You're basically the part of your brain that you're using when you're trying is the part that you need to shut down. So it's directly paradoxical. So they developed a variety of strategies for basically doing an end run around the paradox, strategies for tricking yourself into spontaneity. And people in our culture, we have a few strategies like this. So if you have insomnia, what do? You don't directly try to force yourself to go to sleep. You count sheep, or you do, and that's a way of basically distracting your mind and boring yourself enough that you eventually fall asleep. So the early Chinese developed a variety of strategies for getting around the paradox of wu wei, the paradox of trying not to try. And so I think knowing about these strategies, just first of all identifying the problem and seeing all the areas in our lives where it appears, where we don't often notice it, is helpful. And then having at our disposal a kind of toolbox of these different potential ways around it is a helpful antidote, I think, to this focus that we have on striving and trying and rational self-control.
Goodness. Well, thank you so much. For those of you who are not going to be here later on this evening to hear Professor Slingerland, his book, Trying Not to Try, actually is in our bookstore, and you can find it, and some of the things that he talks about, all the things that he talked about, will probably be contained within those pages.
Yeah, sure.
Within those pages, and we're so happy and proud to have him on campus, and we're very lucky to do so. So thank you again.
Yeah, thanks.